This guy had a weird obsession with the devil and demons. He committed horrific crimes because of it. Brian Sengendo was a 27-year-old man from Enfield, North London, England, who committed terrible crimes because he was obsessed with the devil. The crime sprees started on the 2nd of August 2020. Brian picked up a lady of the night, who could not be named, on Edmonton 4th Street and took her to his flat. He then filmed himself and the lady doing it. And while this was happening, he said, "Repeat after me, I am the devil's child." He also said, "I sold my soul to the devil." The lady of the night said in a statement, "We were lying on the bed and Brian started to say a lot of weird things. His demeanor would go from being quite light to suddenly aggressive. He was talking about devils and demons and how he worshipped the devil." Brian ended up telling the lady he wanted to kill an innocent person with her in the country. The next day, Brian called her repeatedly, telling her they needed to complete the mission, which was to kill an innocent person. Brian told her to bring 2 kitchen knives next time they met up, and she replied, "I don't have any knives and I don't want to kill anyone." But that first victim agreed to meet up with him again, and she hopped into his white van. When they were in the van, Brian pulled out a knife and told her, "I've got you now, you're not going anywhere." Then he said, "If you move, I'm going to effing kill you." The woman was so terrified, she jumped out of the van while it was moving. The next victim, who could not be named, was also a lady of the night. She was repeatedly stabbed and SA'd when she got into his van. The second victim said in a statement, "All of a sudden, the guy held a knife to the front of my neck and said, 'This is what is going to happen. I am going to SA you and I'm going to enjoy SAing you. And you will do what I say or I will kill you.' Then the guy kept asking me if I wanted to die. I could feel something pressed to the front of my neck." Brian forced the second victim to perform acts on him while he was driving, although she didn't want to. She also said this, "He moved the knife from the front of my neck to my gut. I could feel the knife pushing towards my gut area. The male seemed to enjoy telling me that the knife was there. And again, he kept asking me if I wanted to die." She managed to undo her seatbelt and tried to open the passenger door to jump out of the vehicle, but it was locked. Then he started stabbing her with the knife. He did so several times. The stab wounds were to her neck, lower face, her chest, and one to her shoulder. She was later seen staggering into the road by a police officer, bleeding heavily from her neck and sobbing, saying, "I've been stabbed, can someone help me?" The next day, which was the 3rd of August 2020, a local resident called the police after she heard cries of help at the back of her home in Palmersgreen. The local resident could see a white van parked in an alley. This is what that resident said. Standing adjacent to the open front door of the van had been a young black man who was striking someone or something in the van through the open door. Brian then got back into the van after realizing he had been spotted. Police were called, but by the time they arrived, the van was gone. The woman that was getting brutally attacked was this victim named Theresia Gordon. Brian ended up stabbing her to death. Her body was found by a cyclist in Enfield 3 days later. The partial plate number that the local resident provided was cross-referenced with camera records in the Enfield area. Police records were discovered of this vehicle being twice recently reported as abandoned in Enfield by people who lived there. Police also recovered Ring doorbell CCTV footage from an address in this street, which showed a slim young black male getting into the van and then driving it away. Also, Brian repeatedly searched for news of the murder, and he Googled, "How long does DNA last on clothes?" He was arrested on the early hours of the 7th of August 2020 after leaving his home. Brian Sengendo was ultimately convicted of murder, attempted murder, kidnapping, and SA. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 42 years.